Hello and welcome to lesson 5.8. Today we're going to talk about ratio reasoning and converting customary units. Take a moment to do the solve and discuss as you do now. Pause the video and complete that. All right, so you have to use the relationship you know between inches and feet to figure this problem out, okay? The newspaper talks about the snowfall in inches, whereas the problem asks you for it in feet. So you have to be able to convert these from inches to feet. Here's a sample work of a student's work. I'm sorry it's hard to read, but the key point that I wanted to point out to you is right here that they show you 1 foot equals 12 inches, 2 feet's 24, 3 feet's 36, 4 48, 5 foot 60, 6 foot 72, 5.5 feet is 78 inches. So the question was, would it break the record? Well, 78 inches is definitely greater than 75.8 inches. So the answer would be yes, this would break the record. But you have to know how to convert from one to the other. That's what we're going to learn today. So let's look at number 1 here. Example number 1. The sidewalk in front of a store is 4.5 feet wide. The city regulation established a maximum width for sidewalks of 66 inches. Does the sidewalk meet the city regulations? So again, we are talking about feet and inches. So we have to know the customary units and the conversion chart right here for these different things. So in this particular problem, we are going to be talking about feet and inches, which is this first line. 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. But they also show us how many 1 yard, how many inches that equals, how many feet 1 yard equals. They show us miles to feet, and they show us miles to yards. So this is important to become familiar with. You probably won't memorize all of these, but many of these you will become very familiar with. So we need to figure out if the sidewalk that's 4.5 feet wide is in regulation. So we know that when we're figuring this out, we have 4.5 feet, okay? Well, in order to figure out how many inches 4 feet is, we're going to take 4 and multiply that by 12. Well, 4 times 12 is 48 inches, okay? Then we have to deal with this 0.5. Well, this 0.5 is talking about 1/2 of a foot, okay? So if you have a ruler that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, there are 12 inches in a foot. And if we are talking about half of this ruler, well, what are we talking about? That's right. So 0.5 feet is the same as 1/2 a foot, which is the same as half of this ruler, which would be 6 inches. Okay, so then we have to add the 48 and the 6 because now we have everything in inches. The 0.5 feet equals 6 inches, and the 4 feet, we multiply by 12 to get 48 inches. So 48 plus 6 is exactly 54 inches. So, does the sidewalk fit into the city regulations? Yes, it does, because 54 inches is less than 66, which is the regulation. So yes, this fits into it. So you have to think of a way you're going to multiply, divide, what have you, add, subtract in order to convert different customary units. And again, we're talking feet, inches, yards, miles, all of those things. So let's practice this problem here. According to the city regulations, how many feet wide is the maximum sidewalk? Explain. So now you want to take 66 inches and convert it to feet. What do you think we're going to do? That's right. If we take 66 and divide it by 12, we will come up with how many feet the sidewalk can be for regulation. Try that now. Did you come up with 5.5 feet? 66 divided by 12 is 5.5 or 5.5 feet. Excellent job. All right, so we're going to talk about some other types of units. Units of capacity. Have you cooked something ever? Well, now we are talking about units of capacity. These are things we talk about when we're talking about liquids and things like that. So we have tablespoons, teaspoons, pints, cups, quarts, gallons, fluid ounces, cups, all of these different things. So this customary units chart, it's important that you write these in your notebook because I'm not expecting you to memorize them, but both of these charts from our notes here, the length up here, and the other one you want to be sure you have written down. So it says, John has 15 gallons of water for a camping trip. How many quarts of water does he have? So you have to look at what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about gallons and we want to take it to quarts. So we need to look over here at our chart and see, is there something that we can convert? Well, yes, we are talking about gallons and we want to take it to quarts. Well, it just so happens that 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. So if we have 15 gallons, if we multiply that by 4, because there is 4 quarts to 1 gallon, we will come up with our answer. Well, what is 15 times 4? That's right, 60 quarts. 60 quarts is the same as 15 gallons. All right, so you have to look at the thing and see what you're talking about. So let's try this one. Pause the video and try it. Brandon is making bread. His recipe says to use 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. How many teaspoons of sugar should he use? So we are talking about tablespoons to teaspoons. Now for every 1 tablespoon, it tells us in the chart, that's equal to 3 teaspoons. So if he has 2.5 or 2.5 tablespoons, how many teaspoons is that? That's right, you have to multiply by 3. So 2.5 times 3 would be 7.5 teaspoons. Okay? Now, if you looked at that and you were adding, well, you have 1 tablespoon equals 3 teaspoons. So we have 2, so we have 3 plus 3, plus we have half of a tablespoon. So what's half of 3? 1.5. 3 plus 3 plus 1.5 is, yes, indeed, 7.5 teaspoons. It's very important that you write the correct unit behind your number. Otherwise, your answer is incorrect. Liquids, which is considered capacity. All of these charts you must have in your notebook. That concludes our lesson for today. All right, let's look at this last one here. This last example, we're talking about units of weight. Okay, again, get this chart in your notebook. Get this chart in your notebook. Units of weight. Okay, an alpine pika is a small mammal in the rabbit family. How much does the alpine pika weigh in pounds? Okay, so look at this scale here. Okay, this animal weighs 10 ounces. Okay, 10 ounces, and we want to take it to pounds. Oops. Pounds. LBS stands for pounds, or LB, like they show us in our thing. Well, it says 16 ounces equals a pound. All right. So what are we going to do to figure this out? Well, if 16 ounces equals a pound, what would you do? That's right. Take your 10 ounces, divide it by 16, and you get 0.625 pounds. This little animal weighs 0.625 pounds. The thing you need to remember is what things come first, okay? Ounces is the smallest. The next biggest would be pounds. The next biggest would be tons. Okay, when you're talking about tons, you're talking about cars, elephants. When you're talking about pounds, you can refer to people. When you're talking about ounces, you're talking about small items such as food or some small animals and things like that. So, this says, try it. How many pounds does the elephant weigh? Well, they tell us that the elephant weighs 3.3 tons. Okay? And they want to know pounds. So you have to look at your conversion chart. 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. So what are you going to do? That's right. You're going to take 3.3 times 2,000 to come up with your answer. What do you come up with? If you came up with 6,600 pounds, sorry, that should be an L, pounds, you would be correct. The elephant weighs 6,600 pounds or 3.3 tons. So again, we are using these unit charts to convert from one unit of measure to another unit of measure. We're talking lengths, we're talking weight, we're talking